If you drive through the suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona today, it looks like just another sprawling landscape of sun-baked driveways, manicured lawns, and quiet retirement communities. It feels safe. It feels like a place where people go to escape their pasts, to sit by the pool and forget the troubles of the cold, industrial cities in the north. But on a crisp morning in November of 1955, that illusion of safety was shattered in a way that literally shook the ground. The explosion was so massive that neighbors thought a plane had crashed. Windows were blown out blocks away. A pickup truck, or what was left of it, was scattered across the neighborhood like confetti. This wasn't an accident, and the man who was inside that truck, a man his neighbors knew as William Nelson, a cattle rancher and a good friend, was not who he said he was. He was a ghost, a walking dead man who had been living on borrowed time for over a decade. His real name was Willie Bioff, and he had committed the one unforgivable sin in the criminal underworld. He had talked. Today, I want to tell you the story of the man who tried to outrun the Chicago outfit. It is a story that takes us from the gritty slums of Chicago to the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, and finally to a driveway in Arizona where the bill finally came due. This is the story of how the mob sends a message and why, in their world, there is no statute of limitations on revenge. To understand why Willie Bioff had to be vaporized, as the headlines later put it, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to understand the scale of what he did. You see, Willie wasn't your typical mobster. He wasn't a bone breaker like the guys we talked about in previous stories. He wasn't a shooter. Willie was smart. He was a hustler. He was a man who understood leverage. In the 1930s, the Chicago outfit realized they were missing out on a gold mine, the movie business. Hollywood was booming and the mob wanted a cut, but they didn't know how to get in. Enter Willie Bioff. He partnered with a man named George Brown, who was the head of the Stagehands Union. Together, they concocted one of the most audacious extortion schemes in American history. I want you to imagine the sheer nerve of this. Willie Bioff would walk into the offices of the biggest studio heads in the world. We are talking about the tops of MGM, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, and he would make them a simple offer: pay us or we shut you down. Because he controlled the projectionists and the stagehands, he literally could turn off the lights in movie theaters across the country. If the theaters went dark, the studios made zero money. It was brilliant, and it was incredibly illegal. They demanded massive payouts. Suitcases full of cash were handed over in hotel lobbies. We are talking about millions of dollars in today's money, flowing directly from Hollywood to the pockets of the Chicago outfit bosses like Frank Nitti and Paul the Waiter Ricca. Willie Bioff was the golden goose. He was living the high life, rubbing elbows with movie stars, buying land, and feeling invincible. But here is the thing about being the golden goose. Eventually, someone checks the accounting. The IRS and federal investigators started to close in. The extravagant lifestyle Willie was leading didn't match his reported income. It's the classic mistake, isn't it? Hubris. He thought he was untouchable because he was making the bosses so much money. When the heat came down, the Chicago outfit expected Willie to do what a stand-up guy is supposed to do. You keep your mouth shut, you go to prison, you do your time, you protect the family. That is the code. That is the contract you sign in blood when you enter that life. But Willie Bioff, he wasn't built for prison. He liked his silk sheets and his expensive cigars too much. Facing a long sentence, Willie looked at his options and decided that loyalty was a fool's game. He cut a deal, and this wasn't just any deal. Willie Bioff sang. He sang loud and clear. He gave the federal government everything they needed to indict the entire leadership of the Chicago outfit. This is the turning point of our story. This is the moment Willie signed his own death warrant. Because of his testimony, the top tier of the mob, men who were considered American royalty in the underworld, were sent to prison. The humiliation was absolute. Frank Nitti, the man who had succeeded Al Capone, was so terrified of going back to prison because of Willie's testimony that he walked to a railroad track and took his own life. Just think about that for a second. Willie Bioff, a chubby, unassuming union guy, had caused the death of Frank Nitti and the imprisonment of the outfit's board of directors. He had toppled the kingdom. After the trial, Willie went into witness protection, or at least the 1940s version of it. He moved around, changed his name, and eventually settled in Phoenix, Arizona, under the name William Nelson. He reinvented himself. He became a cattle rancher. He joined the local rodeo committee. He was a popular guy in town. He probably thought he had gotten away with it. He probably looked at the calendar, saw that 10 years had passed, then 12, then 15, and thought, they've forgotten. New bosses are in charge. They don't care about old history. But the Chicago outfit is not a normal corporation. In the corporate world, if a CEO leaves, the new CEO doesn't care about a grudge from 15 years ago. But in the mob, a grudge is an inheritance. It is passed down. Paul Ricca, one of the men Willie sent to jail, sat in his cell for years, stewing in hatred. Every day he was locked up was a day he blamed on Willie Bioff. When Ricca and the others were eventually released, they didn't hold a welcome home party. They held a meeting, and the agenda had one item: find Willie. It's terrifying to think about the patience involved here. They tracked him down. It wasn't hard, really. Willie couldn't help himself. He still liked the spotlight. He was socializing, making noise. It was only a matter of time before a whisper reached Chicago. Hey, that cattle guy in Arizona, he looks a lot like Willie the Squealer. Now we get to the morning of November 4th, 1955. It's a Friday. Willie, now calling himself Bill, is planning to go on a hunting trip. It's a mundane morning. He has his coffee, he says goodbye to his wife, he walks out to the garage. I want you to visualize this scene. It's the banality of evil. It's just a man walking to his car. The sun is shining, the birds are singing. He walks past his wife's car and goes to his pickup truck. He opens the door, slides into the seat, and puts the key in the ignition. At this exact moment, there is a mechanism wired to the starter motor of his truck. It's dynamite, a lot of it. The person who planted it knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't a warning shot. This wasn't designed to scare him. It was designed to erase him. When Willie turned that key, the electrical circuit completed and the world exploded. The police report described the scene as total devastation. The blast was so powerful it left a crater in the concrete driveway. The truck was disintegrated. Willie Bioff was gone in a fraction of a second. The message was delivered. But here is where the story gets even more interesting to me: the aftermath. Usually when a murder happens, the police scramble to find the killer, but in this case, there was almost a collective shrug from the underworld. Everyone knew who did it. Not the specific hitman, perhaps, though names were whispered, but the entity, the outfit, did it. They wanted the world to see the wreckage. They wanted that image of the destroyed garage to be plastered on every newspaper front page in America. Why? Because it served as a terrifying advertisement. It told every other potential informant, you can run to Arizona, you can change your name, you can wait 15 years, you can become a cowboy. It does not matter. We will find you, and we will crush you. The vaporization of Willie Bioff closed one of the most turbulent chapters in mob history. It was the final act of the Hollywood extortion scandal. It restored the balance of fear that the outfit relied upon. I find myself wondering about Willie's final years. Did he truly feel safe? Or was there always that shadow in the back of his mind? Every time a car drove down his street too slowly did his heart race. Every time the phone rang at night did he think, is this it? Living with that level of paranoia must be its own form of prison. In a way, he never really escaped. He just traded a cell with bars for a cell made of fear. And what about the morality of it all? Willie Bioff was a criminal. He extorted millions. He ruined lives. does he deserve our sympathy because of the way he died? It's a complex question. He was a victim of a brutal murder, yes, but he was also a predator who eventually got eaten by bigger predators. The assassination of Willie Bioff remains one of the most definitive mob hits of all time. It wasn't a shooting in a dark alley. It was a spectacle. It demonstrated the technical reach of the mob, using explosives, tracking a target across state lines, and their psychological dominance. When we look at the history of organized crime, we often focus on the money or the politics, but stories like this remind us that at its core, this is a business of violence. It is a business where human resources is a guy with a stick of dynamite. The outfit wanted to send a message to him, and they did. But they also sent a message to history. So, the next time you watch an old movie from the 1930s or 40s, think about Willie Bioff. Think about the fact that the money used to make those films might have been extorted by a man who ended up as debris in an Arizona driveway. It adds a dark, gritty layer to the silver screen, doesn't it? I'd love to know what you think about the concept of snitching in this context. Do you think the government should have done a better job protecting him? Or was his fate inevitable the moment he decided to talk? Let me know in the comments below. It's always fascinating to see where you stand on these moral gray areas.